Hi there! Welcome to Switch Mania. I am Clarence and today we'll talk about the must-have Nintendo Switch RPGs and let us see which ones you currently have. A good role-playing game is unlike any other genre in that it allows you to adapt a new identity, similar to putting on a new outfit, and it provides you with a world to explore and become a part of. The Nintendo Switch may not be the most powerful console on the market, but it has a vast library of great RPGs to choose from, including some truly unique titles. Since its release in 2017, the Nintendo Switch has had a plethora of good games in almost every genre, including RPGs. In no particular order, here are some of the most important role-playing games for the console. Spoilers though, this collection steers clear of the action genre of role-playing games in favor of a more traditional approach. This is the second part of this series. If you are curious and interested in the first part, I'll be leaving the link in the comment section. So, let's take a look at the best RPG games for the Nintendo Switch that you need to watch out for and add to your wishlist. To start off, Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition. Divinity Original Sin 2 is a work of art as well as an RPG fan's dream. This game transports us to a world where our decisions have a significant impact on secondary plots. It does, however, maintain a high level of storytelling, combat, and character customization. This is one of the greatest role-playing games ever created. Divinity Original Sin 2 is one of the most intriguing role-playing games ever created, both in its original and definitive forms. The definitive edition demonstrates that even the most complex role-playing games can be successfully ported to gamepad-only consoles. It's one of the best games in recent years, and it's an instant classic in the pantheon of RPG greats. The fantasy world is well thought out and emotionally charged, and the tactical combat is superb. The world in Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition is alive and moving, and Larian Studios appear to have nailed the RPG formula. From start to finish, this was a joy to play, and it's difficult to see where the developers can go from here. Next is Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch. Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch Remastered for the Nintendo Switch is a fantastic port of a fantastic JRPG. It has a fantastic visual style and unique combination of well-known JRPG systems, making it a fun game that every fan of the genre should try at least once. It's not perfect, and its combat system and AI can be frustrating, but that doesn't diminish the fact that it does everything else as well as or better than many JRPGs from recent years. If you have a Switch and are interested in Ni no Kuni, you can't go wrong with this game. Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch is a game that will keep you occupied for many hours. It's not a new Switch game, but it's an excellent addition to the system's library. This is an excellent game for fans of JRPGs with a lot of style and even more heart. It's unusual to come across a game with such appealing graphics as this one. It might be worth to grind a little to see everything this game has to offer. Next up, The Alliance Alive HD Remastered. This classic JRPG is given a second chance on the Nintendo Switch, complete with a high-definition graphics section and improved menus. Those who have previously played it will find nothing new in them, but they do improve on what was already a good Nintendo 3DS experience, with an interesting story and great graphics. Despite some issues with the story and the game's mechanics, The Alliance Alive HD Remastered was engaging from start to finish, and I don't think I'm done with it yet. You can continue with two different new Game Plus modes, but there's a lot of content I skipped over. Even though the main story can be completed in less than 30 hours, this is the type of game that fans may play for twice as long. This game is ideal for those looking for a mix of old and new, but it's not for everyone. The Alliance Alive HD Remastered is nearly perfect, but it just needs a few tweaks to be great. The Alliance Alive is an excellent JRPG that is easy to recommend. This Switch version has new graphics and a new menu, but if you already own it on 3DS, there isn't much else that will entice you to buy it again. Next is Rune Factory 4 Special. There are numerous RPGs and even farm simulation games available for the Nintendo Switch. Because it is a simulator, Rune Factory 4 may not be as epic as Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or Dragon Quest XI's, nor will it be as popular as Animal Crossing New Horizons. But Rune Factory 4 does something entirely different, and it does it exceptionally well. Rune Factory 4 Special is a fantastic RPG because it has a likable cast, a massive amount of content, well-integrated systems, and the ability to customize the game to your liking. Overall, whether you should buy Rune Factory 4 Special depends on whether you played the original 3DS version. There are a few new features, such as new cutscenes and a new Game Plus mode, in which you begin Merit. Furthermore, having it on the Nintendo Switch rather than the 3DS allows it to have a higher resolution and a larger screen, whether docked or used as handheld. Having said that, there isn't much new content. Next up, Trials of Mana. Trials of Mana is the best game in the series since 1999's Legend of Mana. The remake not only brings Seiken Densetsu 3 to a modern audience in its original form, but it also adds to and improves the game's core mechanics and design. The level's flat but interesting design now has a new layer of verticality, and there are plenty of secrets to discover. The combat strikes a better balance between skill-based gameplay and party customization than the original, and despite its simplicity, the plot never sacrifices its integrity for modern storytelling conventions, resulting in a story that is a classic in tone as it is theatrical in scope. The only issue with the Switch version is that it has a lower frame rate and resolution than the PS4 version, but this isn't enough to ruin the experience. This is the new benchmark for video game remakes. The attention to detail demonstrates respect for the original game while also improving it. It's fun to create your own characters in Trials of Mana, and seeing how the story evolves with each party makes the game worth playing again and again. Both new and returning fans will find something to enjoy. Next is The Legend of Heroes: Trails of Cold Steel 3. Trails of Cold Steel 3 is a must-play for anyone who has played or experienced the first two games in the series. Everyone who enjoys RPGs will enjoy this ode to the genre. Cold Steel 3 is fantastic in a variety of ways. It has intriguing side quests, a fun combat system, and a story that transforms what could have been a mundane routine into something extraordinary. Despite its flaws, this is a must-have Switch title because it can be played anywhere and is a lengthy RPG. The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3 on Switch is a good rendition of a great RPG. The Cold Steel series should be accessible to as many people as possible as a result of this Nintendo Switch port. The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3 is one of the best JRPGs ever made, and the Thor's Academy Edition is a fantastic treat for series fans. You'll love this very special package if you enjoy going on adventures with Rune. Next is Moero Crystal H. You shouldn't play Moero Crystal H without headphones, but it's strangely liberating to play a game that accepts illogical sexual themes. The fan service is excellent, and there are numerous waifus to choose from. Everyone in this harem gets used to you and lets you rub them, making it less awkward. Although it may not be for everyone, if you enjoy dungeon crawlers with a lot of moe and sexual hints, this is the game for you. Moero Crystal H borrows heavily from its predecessor, to the point where fans of the first game may believe they are playing the same game. Nonetheless, it builds on what made the first game so good while not undermining its more complex systems. The only thing driving this adventure is collecting monster girls, but I don't think it needs anything else. It's entertaining for those looking for a mindless game, but it's also strategic enough to be a simple dungeon crawler RPG. Next up, Bravely Default 2. Bravely Default 2 is a throwback to the Final Fantasy games of the 1980s in all the best ways. Some modern advances in quality of life make life a little easier, but everything you remember is still there. If you enjoy killing monsters over and over to gain levels, unlock new skills, and search for missing crystals, Bravely Default is your video game paradise. I think it's safe to say that many people will dismiss Bravely Default 2 as a retro-style JRPG. People will be misled by the game's turn-based battles, the character's JRPG appearance, and all of the other genre conventions it employs. Bravely Default 2, on the other hand, is not bound by genre conventions. Instead, it is a game that employs its genre rather than allowing it to control it. It's a meta-fictional thesis that examines what people like about JRPGs and what's most important about them. By doing so, the game has evolved into a rich, beautiful, fun, and emotional experience, which, in my opinion, elevates it to the status of a masterpiece. Next is Disco Elysium, The Final Cut. Disco Elysium is wonderfully strange and silly, but it uses its strangeness to discuss very serious issues. The new voice acting in The Final Cut is a fantastic addition that gives the world a lot more personality, and gives you an idea of how people from different cultures use the space. Aside from a few bugs and faulty controls, there isn't much wrong with the game. Overall, I believe Disco Elysium is one of those games that will will be remembered in a few years. Despite some technical issues, the writing and world building put it far ahead of many other games in the same genre. This is enhanced by the excellent voice acting and narration that have recently been added to all versions of the game. The voice that tells you what's going on and plays your stats is very entertaining to listen to, which is why I stayed even though I could read much faster than how he could talk. If you enjoy dice-based games, you should check out Disco Elysium. You will not be sorry. Next is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is the best way to revisit or experience this classic RPG for the first time. Many of the issues that plague the Wii version has been addressed thanks to enhancements to the game's graphics, user interface, and battle system. Furthermore, the new future-connected story connects loose story arcs and prepares the series for the future. Reuniting with these characters and attempting to figure out what was going on with the Monado was a lot of fun. This is one of the best JRPGs of the generation. Xenoblade Chronicles is an excellent example of how to create a good role-playing game, and it is without a doubt one of the most influential RPGs of the last decade. It's ideal for beginners, and those looking for a challenge can switch to expert mode. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, one of the best video games ever made, improves on the original. The lovely bonus chapter is the icing on the cake. Next up, Dungeon Encounters. Dungeon Encounters will not appeal to everyone. It won't even be for the majority of people. But what if you want a challenging, no-frills dungeon crawl with a battle system that is both familiar and unique? A game that strips the genre down to its gameplay underwear. This is Dungeon Encounters. I can't think of a better way to accomplish such a goal, no matter how specific. Perhaps if the music was better. Just be aware that the game may cause you to throw your controller more than you have in a long time. Dungeon Encounters is a simplified role-playing game focused on battles and exploration. By gaining knowledge and experience, the player must learn how to avoid traps and enemies. This results in a pleasurable experience. Even if the second half of the game isn't as exciting as the first, it's still worth a look. This is not the place to look for an epic, grand story with a lively presentation. However, if you simply want to explore and fight in a turn-based environment, Dungeon Encounters has a lot to offer. Next up, Ruined King, a League of Legends story. Ruined King, a League of Legends story isn't inventing anything new. However, because of how well the game works, it's a good RPG, especially for League of Legends fans. They'll enjoy Airship Syndicate and Joe Madureira's new take on their favorite universe. Even if the writing is occasionally too straightforward and lacking in subtlety, we enjoy getting lost in the streets of Bilgewater and the Dark Isles with charismatic heroes. Ruined King is a fantastic look at the most evil aspect of League of Legends, as well as proof that Riot's universe can expand in new and exciting ways. We were skeptical at first, but it's clear that Riot Forge and Airship Syndicate have many more stories to tell in Runeterra, and we can't wait to hear them. This is a fun adventure with one of the best turn-based combat systems I've seen in a long time, as well as a story that will appeal to both old and new fans. Next is Shin Megami Tensei 5. Shin Megami Tensei 5 wants you to be a god, so it throws everything at you to test your strength. Atlus' deft approach to RPG development compensates for their rebellious and stubborn nature. Those who persevere through its sand-blasted broken world will discover a treasure that will stay with them like a revelation, with a dark, hopeless story and a collection of demons that make Pokemon look like a kid's game. This is a hardcore role-playing at its finest. Only God knows how much better the next one could be. Overall, I had a great time playing Shin Megami Tensei 5. If you're looking for a good meaty RPG to sink your teeth into, this is it. Small tweaks to the Shin Megami formula work really well here, and the game doesn't feel constrained by the Switch hardware. It's great to see Shin Megami Tensei return to mainline consoles from handhelds. This hopefully will draw more attention to the series as a whole. Next is Neo, The World Ends With You. Neo, The World Ends With You, the groundbreaking sequel to a classic game, lives up to its name. Neo, The World Ends With You is a fantastic game that every JRPG fan should play. It has an interesting story with many twists, interesting characters, and the best soundtrack in a video game for the past few years. Neo, The World Ends With You exceeds our expectations in every way. The game has a lively soundtrack that expands on the original's energy, a deep and rewarding combat system that works well in 3D, an inspiring cast of characters who can stand on their own, and most importantly, a world that entices you to return even after you've completed the 40+ hour campaign. Many fans had given up hope that a sequel to this first first Reaper game would ever be made, but we're so glad to see that these talented developers never stop doing what they do best. Neo The World Ends With You improves on everything that was good about the first game. Neo The World Ends With You improves on everything that was good about the first game. Because the story is so good and the combat is so fun, players who join the Reaper's game will be hooked from the very beginning to the end and beyond. Next up, Live Alive. With its intriguing and unique premise, Live Alive attracts players from all walks of life. The fantasy story in this game is good enough for a Square SNES game, but the cool turn-based combat and choice morality systems brings it right up to date. This fantastic RPG has so much to offer that players will be blown away by it. A fantastic remake transformed a great game into a masterpiece. This is a strange and mostly experimental JRPG that stands out in many ways. The use of chapters in simple stories set in different locations and times creates a more varied and adaptable experience. Live Alive is an essential experimental game for people who want to try something new and enjoying playing things that are truly different, thanks to the remake's excellent use of HD 2D art and the fact that this game is the game's first official release in the West. Next is The Legend of Heroes, Trails from Zero. Trails from Zero is an excellent addition to an almost experimental video game genre. A true epic spanning decades of game development, a half-dozen consoles, and a dozen games. The richness and complexity of the story keep the mind occupied, and the charming writing and well-drawn characters make it enjoyable to play. Because the story is the most important aspect of this series, it's fortunate that it's good. Fortunately, the fighting is entertaining on its own, and the whole thing looks fantastic. This is a good place to start if you've never played The Legend of Heroes before. If you've been following this series for a while, you'll be relieved to know that one of the best games has finally received the full localization it deserves. The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero is the best example of how a Nintendo Switch JRPG should be made. It outperforms the PS4 version in every way, and it comes with a slew of extra features to boot. I hope PH3 converts more Falcom games for Switch in the future, because this is one of the best Falcom games on Switch right now. Next up, Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 Royal is still a fan favorite, and the Nintendo Switch version is fantastic. On Nintendo's console, you can play a long-lasting JRPG with high production values that defined an entire generation. It's nearly impossible to create a game with such a great story, soundtrack, and graphics. However, Persona 5 Royal demonstrates that you can do anything. It's nothing short of incredible. From the beautiful style to the captivating music and story, everything about the game appears to fit together and work very well. Each part builds on the previous one and complements it, until the game has earned its place as royalty as the top of the RPG genre. Persona 5 Royal is available on PC, Switch, and Xbox XS. This means that a whole new generation of gamers will be able to fall in love with this work of art. Persona 5 Royal was a masterpiece when it first came out, and it's even better now, years later. You're in for a treat no matter what system you play it on. It's one of the greatest games ever created. Next is Chained Echoes. Chained Echoes blew me away with its quality. I feel like I know what to expect from these indie games that look like JRPGs from the 1990s, both good and bad. Chained Echoes exceeded my expectation and is one of the best role-playing games I've played. If you like the genre, give it a shot. This game is a winner from start to finish thanks to its intriguing world, amusing characters, unique and entertaining gameplay, and excellent presentation. There are so many retro homage JRPGs these days that I'm wary of them. Even when they are well made, they rarely live up to the expectations set by the games that inspired them. Chained Echoes not only meets that standard, but if it had been released at the same time as Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6 on the SNES, people would have thought it was just as good. It's more than just a tribute. It is a genuine and powerful addition to the genre. Finally, Matthias Linda's game is a must-play for fans of the genre, as well as those looking to ease into JRPGs in the name of excellence. And last but not the least, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The characters, music, story, and voice acting are all excellent. If you can get past the dated graphics, this game hits like a truck and charms like a beautiful sunset. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is without a doubt a masterpiece, and I'm excited to see where Monolith Soft will take the series next. Xenoblade Chronicles was already one of the best RPGs available, but Nintendo and Monolith Soft improved on it. It's clear that the studio has learned from previous game successes and failures, but they're also attempting to incorporate new ideas. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has a lot of goals and it accomplishes them all admirably. All of the components work together to provide players with yet another breathtaking experience. This is one of the best Nintendo Switch games because it has huge worlds, a set of complicated but well-managed game mechanics, an amazing cast of characters, and a thrilling story that will capture the player's attention right away. It also has a lovely and exquisite audiovisual setting. Have I missed anything that you've really enjoyed? Let us know in the comments. Please remember to subscribe and I'll see you at the next one.